overall economy. Frankly, what I've been seeing, Brett, is it's been underwhelming. Of course, online did better than brick and mortar. You would expect that given the continued acceptance of online shopping. So that's done a little better, things like Apple, Amazon. But for the most part, most retailers did see disappointment. The good news is that means in the next couple of weeks, we'll probably see even more discounting.
So is this economy soft? Is that a word to use, Stuart?
I think it's just bumbling along. Consumers have more cash from much lower gas prices, but they're not spending it in the stores the way they used to. I think you've got to take care of and take account of Obamacare. Enormous deductibles and very high costs of healthcare. I think that's eating into the disposable cash which a lot of consumers have. The turning point, in my opinion, this year is the turning not so much away from the retail stores, bricks and mortar, but towards online shopping. This is the year when online came of age, and Amazon is absolutely leading the way. It's a real thrust to go shopping online as opposed to standing in the line at the mall.
Right. Trish?
Well, I mean, I think there's some excitement, though, for a lot of Americans to stand in line in the mall, right? It's a tradition. Black Friday. A lot of people, I'm not in this camp, but a lot of people like to go shopping on Black Friday and be part of that sort of festive holiday cheer, which includes lots of sales. They are having an opportunity to do it online more so. That's good. But I was pretty disappointed in the lack of numbers that we saw at the National Retail Federation in terms of Friday's sales. They came in roughly $1 billion less than expected. And, I think that, Brett, really speaks to some of the softness we are seeing overall in the economy. Well, on the one hand, you could say part of it is people don't want to deal with those lines. I think it's telling you something else. And I agree with you, Maria. We are going to see a soft season, and it's because we're in a very anemic economic growth environment and people aren't feeling confident and good and they're not out there shopping.
Maybe it's a cultural thing. Maybe it's my age, I don't know. But I've seen an awful lot of doorbuster sales and I've seen an awful lot of lines and I've tried to park for eternity and I can't do it. Maybe I'm turning away, like a lot of people, away from the actual standing in line and buying, which is increasingly difficult.
You look for the Amazon, they put out the video of the new drone that is going to be delivering packages around the country, and that's really quite something. That could be the future of delivery of service.
It looks interesting. I mean, it can only hold 5 pounds, so it's small packages for sure. But I think overall what you're seeing is a soft economy, Brett. You really are. You're seeing people worried about their jobs, worried about their neighbors' jobs, and as a result, they're sitting on cash. I think Obamacare is the right point to make because small business is getting crushed. You know the rules. If you've got 50 employees, you are forced to offer benefits, healthcare benefits. And if you can't afford it or you don't offer those benefits, you will pay a fine. A lot of small businesses are choosing, you know what, I'll just pay the fine because I cannot afford to pay all of these benefits to employees with just 50 employees. It's
Talking
really hard.
about jobs, Trish, you've got the look over, the past few years and quarters and the unemployment numbers. And obviously they have ticked down, but so has the number of people who are looking for work, who are not even in the workforce.
Well, I'll tell you, 5% unemployment just ain't what it used to be, Brett. Because back in the day, that would have been really good. But 5% isn't so good anymore. And there's a few things going on. I mean, one, you mentioned basically the number of people that could be working that aren't working. We're seeing a labor participation rate that's quite weak, and it hasn't been this weak since the 1970s. The other thing is that wages haven't been going up. I mean, we've got a little bit of an uptick last time around, but they're not growing enough, which is crazy when you think about it, because the Fed has been throwing everything it possibly can at this economy to try and get a little inflation, and we're not really seeing any. So people aren't making that much money in those jobs.
This is the United States of America. This is a vigorous, dynamic, capitalist society. But in the last 7 years, we've never seen a single year where you've got 4 or 5% growth. We have not seen it. In America, that's extremely unusual. If you turn that around, if you did get that kind of growth, you would see a different attitude on the part of the consumer and the shopper.
So look in the crystal ball here, Maria. 2016, we're in the middle of a presidential race. Is the economy slowly getting to a place where it's chugging along a little bit better than it is now?
I think chugging along is a fine, phrase for that. That's okay, but that's really not where we should be at this point in the cycle, in a recovery cycle. The fact is the manufacturing part of this economy is already in recession. You've seen a huge collapse in the price of commodities, a huge collapse in anything really related to trade. Exports are down, and many people expect 20 2016 to be an all-out recession. So that's going to be a major issue for the next president to have to deal with.
Maria, Stuart, Trish, thank you as always. Shannon, we'll send it back to you in D.C.
All right. Thank you, Brett. Well, the airwaves in early voting states are filling.
This is Joe Wayne with the anti-COINTELPRO show. Good morning. Good Monday morning. My bad. Good Tuesday morning. This is the day after, right? The day after the biggest news to come out since 1971, since the dumbass Dick Nixon took us off the gold standard. Biggest news since then. And you may be asking yourself, you may be scratching your head, and you're probably saying, what are you talking about? What big news happened on November 30, 2015? The Monday after Thanksgiving 2015. And I know that there are a lot of you who may still have that tryptophan high or that tryptophan hangover. You're probably still a little bit groggy, and that's completely understandable. But what you have just watched, folks, and I hope you watched all 5 minutes of that Fox News financial panel, right? It was the financial panel for the Bret Baier Show for November 30, 2015. November 30, 2015. And if you're scratching your head like I am, saying, why did they leave the biggest information to come down the pike since 1971 at the minimum? Well, completely slipped their mind to all these financial experts from Fox Business News, completely slipped their mind to mention that the dollar now has a competitor in the IMF as it pertains to the world reserve currency status.
That the renminbi qualified for the SDR basket under existing criteria. The addition and the inclusion of the renminbi in the SDR basket of currencies is a recognition of the significant reforms which have been conducted, of the significant opening up of the Chinese economy, of the financial, more market-driven principles that are being used by the Chinese authorities going forward. That is clearly symbolic, in a way, of all those reforms, which is why as I associated the renminbi's inclusion with the reforms conducted and to be continued.
Or let me be more specific, as it pertains to the U.S. being the sole world reserve currency. And let me tell you why this is so important to you. Well, this is so very, very, very important to you because what is going to happen now? You know, folks, since the Bretton Woods agreements in the early 1950s, since that agreement, the U.S. has been able to flex its muscle to bully all of the other countries in the world and forced to be the world's police because in the Bretton Woods Agreement, all the world powers got together and decided that oil needed to be traded in one specific currency. And they decided that currency was going to be the US dollar. And this is the reason why we were forced to go off the gold standard in 1971.
United States.
Well, the petrodollar has been king since the Bretton Woods Agreement, right? Everybody, Vladimir Putin, the leader of China, the leader of any country, hell, any country, any oil company, and any country in the world, if they want to buy or sell oil, they have to buy or sell oil in the US dollar. Now, this is what has kept the US hegemony over the world going for so long. And this has been the, the gun at the head of every nation in the world since they agreed to this and since they, signed their own death notices with this agreement. Now, we have an alternative to the U.S. hegemony of the U.S. dollar, the U.S. petrodollar. So what's going to happen, folks? And if you are a subscriber to this channel, kudos to you. Because if you are, you would have been informed about 6 months ago with my catastrophic breaking news pertaining to the IMF and the renminbi being offered as a new reserve currency. Well, I had a lot of folks on that video. Well, not that many actually, because the people who actually watch my videos are very well informed. That's why they watch my videos. Not to say that I'm the end all and be all, but I do my research. Well, that being said, folks, now the US dollar has a competitor, right? Now people can use the renminbi, the friends of China will find this very useful since they already have accounts set up in China. They have a lot of their assets tied up in China, because if you pay any sort of attention to the facts on the ground, the financial facts on the ground, you will realize, folks, that the financial, the economy of the world, the worldwide engine for all of the collective economies will be ran out of the East from now on, okay? This is just a cyclical change that happens, just like we have a jet stream that goes along certain predetermined lines. Well, you also have financial streams that go along certain currents, that they have always flowed through and in, and always will. Well, that being said, what does this mean to you, folks? Well, let me tell you what this means to you. If you watch the other video, then you will know what this means to you. If you watch the other video, you've had a few months to prepare, like I did. If you didn't, well, it may be too late. Because if there are to the point of actually having to publicize this world reserve currency status, right, for China and the renminbi, if they're at that point, well, the complete financial collapse could not be very far down the road from where we are now. And let me tell you why. You want to know why everyone is talking about World War III, folks? Or, if you're the DOD, you're calling it World War IV because they consider the Cold War as World War III. I consider it World War III myself. That being said, the reason, folks, and here you have, I'm going to show you a chart done by a mentor of mine, Mike Maloney. And here he has a chart, folks. And what this is the Baltic Dry Index chart. And you will notice that the time that the Baltic Dry Index spikes and has spiked the most is during world wars, right? And the Baltic Dry Index is a key indicator of a worldwide financial collapse, or, the market at any given time. That being said, all of these times that the Baltic Dry Index spiked, like I said, were times of world war, if not serious world conflicts, right? And the reason that these conflicts arise, the reason that most wars or battles happen, right, is to distract the general public. It's to distract us, folks, from what's really going on. And what's really going on is the central bankers create the situations on the ground to start conflicts in order to distract from failed policies in the IMF, the Federal Reserve, the Bank of International Settlements, all of these centralized structures for control from the banking industry. And like I tell you, folks, they have to control us just like the leftists, just like the communists, just like the socialists, just like the fascists, just like the Republicans, just like the Democrats. They all have to control us because they can't compete with us, folks. And if you can't compete, you have to control, right? You have to control so that you're the only voice out there that anybody hears. Well, they can't control us anymore, because of the globalist policies. And these globalist policies stem from one place, folks. It is the Zionist cabal, the Zionist Khazarian, or let me rephrase that, the Khazarian Zionist cabal. That's where the financial misappropriations and chicanery begin with and end with. It is with the Zionist Rothschild clan, the Zionist Rothschild banking cartel, the Khazarian Zionist banking cartel that has controlled through their funding of both sides of every war since at least Waterloo, right? When they were funding Napoleon and, his enemies. And that's how they began all this, right? They began all of their control with the lie. They used carrier pigeons, folks. The Rothschild banking cartel did. They used carrier pigeons to find out who won Waterloo. They found out in enough time to lie about the winners of the war or the battle. And in that way, they used that lie to crush the consumer confidence. They then used the crashed economies to plunder the stocks of every country that was involved. That's how they began their takeover. And that's how they continue their lies and deception and control of the cabal and the once free world. Well, now what's going to happen, folks? Now that they have been forced to have another world reserve currency, just another indicator that their money printing ad infinitum has come to an end. They have to pay the piper, and they have to pay the piper now. You know, in 2008, when that crash happened, we should have took our lumps, but no, we didn't. What did we do? We were forced at gunpoint to bail the bankers out. And what did the bankers do? They held on to that money. And they held on, and they kept printing, and they kept giving the bankers money that they kept hanging on to. None of that money's being spread around to the public to facilitate some type of consumer activity. No, it's all being held on to. All those fake dollars are being held on to by the fake leaders of the world. Once again, the only thing they are elite in is in being a pathological criminal. That's it. But what's going to happen, folks? What is going to happen? What's going to happen now? Like I said, if you watched my other video pertaining to this event, what is going to happen now is you're going to have all these countries that have been forced throughout the decades with a boot on their neck and a gun at their head to carry out the U.S. hegemony, are now going to run for the exits. Okay, right? They're going to run to the exits so they can dump their U.S. dollars, which they hate because they've been forced to use these items of control for decades. They've been forced to do what we want. We've been forced to be the world police. You ever wonder, folks, why we are the world's police? Why we have to go to every little skirmish, right? And work it out for them, you know, be the big boys on the block? Bullshit. The reason we have to be the world's police because that is what comes along with the territory when you are the sole world reserve currency. That's the agreement. If you're going to take on that status, that mantle of power and control, then you're going to have to be the world's police. That's just the way. If you're going to be paid like you're the parent of the world, you're going to have to do the job of the parent of the world, and you're going to have to break up fights between, different countries and localities and territories. Well, now all of these countries with a hatred for America, for a reason, all of those countries are going to be running to get rid of their trillions of dollars of U.S. blood money. What that is going to do in turn, folks, well, there's already been, for the last year now, a devaluation going on. Well, now you're going to see the devaluation of the dollar stepped up. And after that, you're going to see hyperinflation. So this is your last warning, folks. If you want to prepare for the apocalypse that is coming, get your silver and get it now. Silver, for 6,000 years, has not only been a monetary resource, but for the last 30 to 40 years has been the primary industrial metal that we have used. It's in everything. Why is it in everything? Because it is the number one conductor of electricity, right? That's why it's in everything. That's why they solder the circuit boards of the computers together with silver. That's why they have the silver connections in the alternators and generators. That's why silver is in everything, because it's the number one conductor of electricity. It's also a great antibiotic. Back in the day, folks, they used to put silver dollars in their milk. This is pre-refrigeration. They used to put silver dollars in their milk, and this would stop the milk from going bad for days, right? Why did it and how did it do this? Well, silver does this because it deprives the bad bacteria in your body. It deprives those bad bacteria of oxygen, and the bad bacteria needs oxygen to live and to replicate, right? The good bacteria does not need oxygen, like the gut flora and things of that nature in your body. Well, silver deprives those bad bacteria of oxygen, so they can't live in an environment that is oxygen depleted, but the good bacteria can. And this is one of the things that I will be offering when I go live with my Instinct for Survival e-store. I will be, in the beginning, folks, I'm not going to be doing any cross-labeling because these are things that I really believe in, that I've tested, that I know that work. And I make them myself. So no cross-labeling going on. These are all products that I make myself, that I use myself, that I know that work, and that I know will work for you. So my Super Survivor Colloidal Silver will be one of the first products that is on the e-store. There will be a lot of turmeric-based products as well, because turmeric, if you don't know, kills cancer. It kills every bacteria on contact, right? Turmeric is amazing. If you haven't done your research on this, do it. In the upcoming weeks, I will be making a video or two about turmeric and the amazing properties of this miracle compound. But I will be offering as well a lot of products that are turmeric based. And that again is instinctforsurvival.com. All I can say, folks, is good luck. I hope that if you didn't listen 6 months ago with the last video, that you listen now and that you listen intently and that you take this clarion call to heart and you go prepare now for the eventuality that's about to hit America like a brick wall at 100 miles an hour, right? This is Joe Wayne with the anticoIntelpro Show. Good day.